Yeah, this is like more terrifying than sharing it. Are we done yet? Because I'm supposed to be funny now. Half the time when I share, it's never meant to be funny, but people end up laughing, and it makes me feel really good about myself. Yeah, so it's like most of the performers, I'm like really jealous, or not jealous, I'm nervous because I'm not going to be singing. I heard there was a $250 grand prize, and I thought about all the dirty things that I would do for $250, and I thought I might try doing this first before I resort to selling my body. What's the risk? My life's pretty good today. I just celebrated 8 months of sobriety. That ruins my next joke because I didn't think anyone was going to clap, and I thought I was going to tell you that's where you clap, prick. But yeah, I called my mom yesterday and I told her about this, and I was like, I'm really nervous, you know, I'm supposed to be funny, and I think I'm going to let everyone down. And she was like, well, at least you have experience doing that. That's a joke. That's a joke, too, by the way. It's not a joke, it's true, but she's got jokes, too. My mom and I have a great relationship today. I talk to my mom about things I never thought I'd talk to my mom about, like relationship stuff. And I tell her about a girl, and she's like, oh, that's great, that's great. And she goes, she says the same thing every time. She says, just, you know, take it easy on the sex. And what she means by that is don't jump into sex right away. She's Catholic and she wants me to wait till marriage. But when I hear that, I feel like she's worried about like the level of roughness of the sex. Like she's worried about the women. And I'm like, have you been reading my journals, Mom? Like that's really weird. Made me paranoid. My favorite relationships ever were the ones I had in treatment. I've been in a lot of treatment centers and I fell in love many times. I don't know why everyone hates on treatment relationships. They're the best ones. You get the shit out of the way first. I remember sitting at bars being like, how do I impress this girl? Should I lie about the money I have? In treatment, you know you're both losers, so you get that out of the way super quick. You're like, okay. You don't even have to flirt. Like flirting in rehab is like, hey, I just found out I have hepatitis. You want to go watch Transformers in the movie room? Or like, hey, I noticed you crying in the med line. I want you to know I have a bus pass. You can use it anytime you want. Sorry about the content. I didn't realize there was going to be kids here. Then I realized a lot of the kids here were probably conceived in Oxford. So, there's a lot of unavoidable questions you get when you're in recovery and then you go out into the real world outside of treatment. And when you're not from here, people ask you, are you from here? And I say, no, I'm from California. And they say, what brings you to Eugene? School? And I say, yeah. They're like, U of O? And I'm like, no. And they're like, Lane? And I'm like, no. And they're like, oh. And I lean in and I'm like, School of Hard Knocks, motherfucker. They stop asking questions. So I'm training this new kid at my job, and he's a 20-year-old U of O student, and he's very curious about crystal meth. He leaned in while we were polishing silverware together. He's like, so what's crystal meth like? And I was like, well, it makes me really focused on stealing people's shit. Another question normies like to ask is, how's sobriety going? I don't know, Carol. I didn't slam dope today and steal a car, so I think I'm doing pretty good. How about you? I was telling my boss the other day, I was telling him about all the jobs I've been fired from, which is a really interesting conversation to have with your boss. He's like, that many? And I was like, yeah. The craziest one I ever got fired from was a job where I didn't get paid. It was from the suicide hotline. And the guy was on the phone, he was venting about how he was going to do it, and I was like, I know I'm supposed to talk you out of this, but you're making a lot of valid points right now. Then I told him I had to go, and I see why everyone thinks he's boring, and I hung up. I just want to thank everyone for being here. This has been like a huge thing for me. I've always wanted to pursue stand-up comedy. I was in the last treatment, the treatment before last, I told the lady doing my intake I want to do comedy with my life, and she's like, well, you're never going to be able to do comedy with a drug and alcohol problem. Do you know who stand-up comedians are? I don't know, maybe she was right. I live in Oxford now, like I said. It's a trip. I lived in a bunch of halfway houses, but I've never lived in Oxford where they have the system that they do with fines and everything. But I think I'm going to keep that system everywhere I go Like I'm gonna be married 10 years down the line, and I'm gonna have a meeting with my wife on Sunday about how she owes me $300 fucking for leaving hair in the shower. And she needs to pay up. I also like living in Oxford because I like to mess with people. I really do. Funniest thing I ever did was I was at an HSC meeting and they were talking about opening a new house, and I was like, this is great. So I messaged my group chat and I was like, hey, they're closing our house. And most people believed it and they were not happy. Another thing I like to do is answer the phone because nobody in my house likes to answer the phone, so I do it. We get a lot of guys calling from jail, and I'm like, how is it in there? Are you getting laid a lot? I told one of the guys that we buy hookers for the new guys that come in from jail, and he got like really excited. I asked one guy, I was like, you getting laid a lot? And expecting him to be like, what? And he was like, yeah, it's not bad. That's all I got tonight, guys.